So this is the section 1 discussion for the banned book project. So question number 1. Knowing this book is on a banned book list, what are your thoughts? What context could impact this reasoning? So I said, knowing that this book is on a banned book list, I don't believe it deserves to be banned from what I have read so far. Although it deals with suicide, a serious subject, I can't see what would make it be banned because it doesn't make light of suicide. It just talks about how different scenarios that seem small can affect a person's life.
Okay, and the notes that I took, the topic of suicide used to be more taboo, but it seems like in more recent years it's been brought more to the forefront as mental health awareness is more prevalent. The book's contents may be too mature for younger readers, but I feel that it is appropriate for high school aged young adults.
So question 2 is, so far, what is happening in the book? Students will talk about plot elements and adults can talk about the summary of the events. So we have passed the exposition where we met main characters Hannah Baker, who killed herself, and Clay Jensen, a friend of Hannah's. We are now in the rising action learning what other students at Clay and Hannah's high school have done to make Hannah want to commit suicide.
And I had written that high schooler Hannah Baker has committed suicide and she has left behind a series of audio tapes for her classmates to listen to, describing how each had an impact on her decision to end her life. So far, her classmate Clay has been listening to the cassettes and the stories that Hannah tells of how she was wronged or hurt by others. Clay is wondering when he's going to be discussed and mentioned in the tapes, and it seems like he isn't sure why he would be on her list of 13 reasons why she killed herself.
Question 3, what is the most interesting part so far? For me, the most interesting part is hearing how Hannah connects all of the people in her life to the reasons why she committed suicide and connecting everyone in the story to her story and what goes on in her life.
The most interesting part so far for me are the descriptions of what Hannah has experienced and endured from her friends and acquaintances. The author writes in a way that is easy to understand with plenty of descriptive words. He is using his use of imagery in describing both the classmates and the physical locations makes the story more relatable and interesting to me.
Question 4, what about the book do you enjoy? What about the book do you find the most challenging? I enjoy the plot. It is very interesting and eye-opening to how people dealing with depression like Hannah really feel about life. And the most challenging part of the book is figuring out how every character's story fits together and also reading between italics, which is how Hannah writes, and regular font, which is how Clay's part is written, and trying to keep track of who is talking.
The part I enjoyed most about the book is that getting to know the insight from Hannah's perceptions as the way that she was treated from her peers and how she felt about others' actions and how they affected her. I enjoy that the relationships are becoming more intertwined as the story unfolds and that I can picture in my mind what is happening. Having a high schooler myself, the storyline is very relatable to the goings-on at any like typical high schooler, what they might be experiencing. As far as challenges, what I find most challenging is that the author chose to write the book in a way that either Hannah is talking post-mortem via the audio cassettes or Clay is reacting to what Hannah is saying on the cassettes. Hannah's part is written in italics and Clay's part is written in regular font. Sometimes it's challenging for me to keep track of who is telling the story despite the differences in the font. Also, it's somewhat challenging for me to keep what's going on in the past versus what's going on in the present because the story flip-flops back and forth quite a bit.
So question number 5, which is the last question. Why do you think this book is banned, censored, or restricted? How has the story developed or focused on these issues? What kind of impact would the book have without these issues? So I'm guessing that the book is banned, censored, or restricted because it talks about suicide, which is a very serious and hard to talk about subject. And the story has developed on these issues because the main character, Hannah, makes tapes about how all the people in her life made her want to commit suicide. And the book probably wouldn't have any impact without these issues because the book is centered around Hannah's suicide, and that's the main theme. So if it didn't have the theme, then there would be no impact with the book.
Mine is kind of similar in that I am assuming the book was on the banned list due to the subject matter of suicide. Some may feel that teens may be more apt to consider suicide after reading a book about it. I don't personally feel this would be the case. The book begins right away discussing Hannah's suicide, then develops by explaining why she did it via the audio cassette tapes. As far as impact, the entire book is about Hannah's suicide. So without this content, the story would no longer be about the main theme. It would be impossible to tell the story of Hannah's suicide without discussing suicide. So there really wouldn't be much of a book without the main topic.
So that was our first discussion for our first section. So hopefully you enjoyed listening to this.